Sir, so let's start by talking about the initiatives and fundraisers that you have been part of, especially since last year, uh, and especially during the second wave of the pandemic.
Sure. Um, the last year, of course, was a very different scenario. Um, we we knew that there was a lockdown, but I don't think there was as much fear as there is this year, because as we know, the second wave and the the strain that is going around now is far more worrying. You also have attendant, correlated illnesses, mucormycosis doing the rounds, black fungus doing the rounds. So it's this time is a lot more worrisome. So last year, right at the beginning, I mean, I did the fundraise for migrant workers because we were more concerned about rehabilitation in a sense, and that was quite successful. And we continue doing efforts like that. This year, this time around for the second wave, to be honest, I mean, the whole thing looks pretty daunting and it's quite unrelenting. So I think different groups of people have come together to do, selected things, and everybody is sort of collaborating in one way or the other. So specifically, I'm working on two initiatives. One is a fundraiser which is happening tomorrow, Saturday, the 22nd of May, along with very well-known people like Kunal Kapoor, the actor, Amish Tripathi, the author, Vikas Khanna, the chef, and what we're all doing together is raising money. We're doing master classes and raising money for specifically oxygen, and this has been ongoing for some time. Been raising money for that. The second initiative that I have created and I will continue to work on will be supplying money to NGOs which are focused on food, giving food for COVID positive patients across Chennai. Many of them are running it like food banks, but they also need to be funded. And I thought it might make sense to use my channels, my platforms to do that. So these are the two specific initiatives. Throughout this period, for the last couple of months, I've been doing various other things, being part of the initiatives done by various other people as well. But I'm sure everybody is doing that.
Okay, okay. So the oxygen fundraiser, is it um, to be done across India or like focused on couple of cities or places in India?
This one is focused more for Bombay, but I mean they are. I mean, of course, it's the Hemkund Foundation. I mean, different people coming together, so it is probably spreading across. But I think specifically Bombay is the focus. The second initiative, and related to the second initiative, a number of things that I'm doing are, of course, very Chennai specific.
Okay.
My priority, obviously, last year as well as this year, would always be Chennai. So.
Okay, okay, fine, I get it. Why don't you just tell us a little more about another initiative which you actually did it for around 9 days, one song, one hope. Tell us a little more about that, and what made you think of doing something like that, and how did you choose those organizations which you felt needed to be highlighted? Yeah.
Sure. So One Hope, One Song, I mean, I was just using my Facebook Live on a daily basis for 9 days to highlight 9 organizations, um, wherein I would play a song, but I will also amplify and talk about the efforts of one specific NGO focused on Chennai. The way I chose the organizations, essentially, Ashish, was organizations that I personally knew, which I have been involved in. And I know for a fact that they're doing genuine and very sincere efforts in reaching relief and rescue, I mean, relief and rehabilitation efforts for a large population. So I made sure that these are organizations that were, registered charitable trusts, publicly audited, and known for a track record of work, so that there is a certain credibility to the sort of organization that one is amplifying. This is not to say that many private individuals are not doing whatever they can and doing their little bit, but I felt that, for example, choosing an organization like Rotary Club of Madras, which is also it's a club that I belong to, and Rotary Club just did 1 crore worth of donation of equipment, which is reefer trucks and refrigerated cold storage equipment for vaccines to the government of Tamil Nadu. And RCM is the largest Rotary in Chennai, and I'm personally associated with that club. And so, I mean, and I know what is happening on the ground, so I chose to speak about them. Or for that matter, Samarpana, which is again a registered non-profit, and they are actually a collection of artists and art lovers who've come together to. They've got an ambitious goal of 2.5 crores for oxygen for Chennai, and so I highlighted them. I mean, I've contributed something to them, but I wanted to highlight their cause as well. So it was basically looking at people who are doing a very large quantum of work, and as I said, registered non-profit organizations with a very creditable public record.
Okay, okay. So you have been, doing a lot of initiatives and fundraisers in the last couple of months, in the last 1 year. So I'm sure that you must have done, as you said, you must have done a lot of research on these organizations and groups which are doing these things. Could you highlight or could you mention a few, really heartwarming or heart-touching experiences that you would have come across that's still fresh in your mind?
So last year we did I mean, I did 11 days, 11 lakhs fundraise for the first wave, and all the proceeds went to Bhumika, which is, of course, a very well-known NGO in Chennai. And I mean, I think Bhumika has been at the forefront of at this wave for reaching oxygenators, oxygen cylinders all across Tamil Nadu. I mean, they've got supporters like CSK this time, and doing a lot of work. What was incredible, Ashish, was last year when I started it, I had no idea that we would raise that money, and I'd given myself only 10 days. Of course, a lot of celebrities who are my friends also participated in it. I'd planned it like that, and they were all very kind to give their time and amplify the message. But every day we would see a jump by 2 lakhs and 3 lakhs and things like that. And we didn't even know where all this was coming from. And there was one anonymous donor I remember who used to just say, I want to bless Anil, and keep putting a lakh or 2 lakhs, that kind of amount. I still don't know who that person is. But that kind of faith that we are doing something good and it will ultimately reach people. That is something that I can remember very, very well. In this year's second wave pandemic, there are people reaching me and saying, "Can you speak about this cause? Can you speak about this cause?" I'm getting requests to talk about different organizations, and I mean, I started it very informally as just 9 days of what I could do during the lockdown. But it seems to have spread, and I mean, despite the clutter that we have on social media, and despite the amount of over information we are being fed with in every possible medium, I'm glad to see that good efforts are still spreading. Good, collaborative, cooperative help is still reaching across boundaries, and people are managing to band together. I've been helping. I have been doing a helpline, Ashish, till about 10 days ago. Before I started One Hope, One Song, I was doing a helpline. And every day I was getting calls. Obviously, when you have a helpline, you're getting calls of people wanting beds, wanting ICU beds, oxygens, remdesivir. I mean, the whole works. And somewhere in between, people started calling me from Bangalore, from Hyderabad, asking for beds in those cities. And I would keep asking them, who gave you this number for Bangalore and Hyderabad? They said, no. They said, this is a good man who helps. And so we thought you will help. And 99% or even 100% of the people I spoke to are not people I know, or definitely don't know me. Have no idea. In fact, somebody called me during that helpline and said, "Can your NGO supply oxygen?" And I said, "I don't run an NGO. I can only pass on your request to somebody else." Um, and then that person said, "So what do you do?" And I said, I am a musician. He said, "Why are you not playing music? You should be doing that and helping people. Why are you working on oxygen cylinders?" And I said, I'll keep that suggestion in mind, but right now we just have to keep passing the goodness along. So, I mean, there's been a number of things. And I think one of the things right from the Chennai floods volunteering days to today, what I can say is, these kinds of situations also bring a lot of people together. They don't care who you are, what your background is, you're big or small. I mean, none of this makes a difference. As long as you're part of a chain of human beings that can help each other, I think at least the citizenry of this country is always showing that we can stand united. So I take that as a very heartwarming message.
Uh, but this isn't the first time that you have, taken up, this initiative of helping disadvantaged. You have always done that. You have used music to help or empower the disadvantaged. But I think I asked you this question, but if we could once more tell us or elaborate on, how different is it this time? Your job as somebody who would empower the disadvantaged as a musician.
So this time is different, Ashish, because this one doesn't have a finite end date. The floods we knew, I mean, about a month and we'll be back to normal. Even with the cyclone we had this. I mean, it's all time bound. This one is not time bound. It's the first wave broke out in March last year, and now we are in May this year, and we're still talking about the second wave. There are fears of a third wave. I mean, this is not something that's going to end very soon, and there's only a finite amount of help that any one human being or one organization can do, right? It's not endless. I think it's very important to also know your limits and know how much you can do. The temptation is to go on helping, but like they say in airplane announcements, you have to help yourself first. You have to wear your oxygen mask yourself, because this is not a situation where we can go out there physically and be helping all the time. I mean, you have to watch your own health as well. So it is very different. It definitely has not been as energy and enthusiasm filled as working during the floods, because then you knew that there was an immediacy and urgency of something that needed to be done within a finite time period, and you would go ahead and do it. This time it's like, how much ever you do, it's never ending, right? So and just now, as you know, it's beginning to spread to the rest of Tamil Nadu, and rural Tamil Nadu is beginning to get waves now. So somewhere you've got to draw a line, and it doesn't end. And your own frustrations, because I mean, I'm also a performing musician. I run an organization for music, using music to teach STEM. I've got my own employees, my team to worry about. So there are too many other things to worry about, that you can't endlessly keep doing this. In some ways it's disappointing, but in some ways also I think we've got to remind ourselves that we are human and we can only do this much.
If you look into history, music has always been there in terms of touching people's lives or healing them in so many different ways which others wouldn't have been able to do. Or like if you look at something like Band Aid, uh, yeah, so it has always been there. But do you think musicians are doing enough, or the celebrities are doing enough at this point of time?
So, as far as musicians are concerned, as I said, Ashish earlier, musicians themselves are in a position where they need help right now. Uh, if you're a performer, you're dependent on gigs for your income, and there are no gigs. There's nothing happening. And if you're a sessions musician, for example, in the cinema industry, then you have X number of sessions that gives you an income every month. And all of this has not been happening. And nobody even knows when all this is going to revive. So things are very tight for musicians. So I wouldn't expect too much, at this point of time. But having said that, I know that many of the top playback singers have been doing a lot in raising money. I know Chinmay, for example, is hosting Twitter Spaces, singing, and all the proceeds are going to COVID relief. During the first wave, USCT Srinivas brought together a lot of playback singers and musicians like us, and all of us got together as one under one banner and raised a hell of a lot of money. So, I mean, people are doing, but I would not want to look at any specific community and say they have not done this, they have not done this, because um, honestly, I think the needs for the musician community itself is quite a lot right now.
Okay, I get it. Yeah. But in terms of doing what you and Chinmay and all are doing, do you think more people could do that? Not just celebrities, it could be other not just musicians,
Yes,
it could be other celebrities
I
also.
mean, I always feel more people. In fact, when I look at social media and I keep thinking to myself, if people have so much time to, fight over political ideology right now, they could just be using their social media platforms to amplify needs for help or amplify COVID relief efforts more. And even just awareness, and that would actually help with, sort of controlling the pandemic. But people are people, so some people want to vent and on social media they don't specifically want to help any effort. Maybe they don't know which ones are legitimate or not. It's very difficult to say. I think one thing that we can all do is probably be less judgmental about anybody else. I think everybody's probably fighting their own trauma, their own fears, their own uncertainties. And businesses have been impacted, livelihoods are very terribly impacted. So people just want to probably use the technology platforms to vent, and maybe that in itself is a good thing. Rather they vent here than take it out on somebody which will hurt. So I think it's very difficult to judge.
Yeah. Having done so much in the last 1 year and over the years, in terms of all these initiatives, again, mostly aiming at the disadvantaged in the community, in the society. How do you think, we can make these fundraisers more effective, and these initiatives more effective?
I think, for example, if event organizers, festival event organizers could start using their platforms towards those of us who are willing to perform for free but to raise money, I think it'll amplify the message a lot more, Ashish, rather than us trying to do this individually and being limited by the number of people we can reach.
Okay.
I think that is one thing. The second thing is that the government itself can empower artists. I mean, see, many of us, for example, have been recipients of national awards and things like that. It's
Mm,
very easy for the government to reach out to a whole caucus of us and say, as a collective, can you do this? And they can amplify it too. You know,
mm,
I think these are all mechanisms where if artists are saying we are willing to give of our art and give of our time to be able to do this, then we should be using bigger and bigger platforms to enable people.
mm,
Instead, I think what is happening is that we get stuck as individuals doing individual initiatives, and that's very very limited. Half the time you don't even know if another musician who might be a very good friend of yours is doing something, and you don't even know about it because it's impossible to follow everybody's social media feeds all the time. So I think larger organizations should probably use their platforms now very effectively. You know, I'm sure if, for example, a Book My Show
mm,
or a Paytm said, let's do a nationwide, any artist can contribute to this, and it'll all go towards these specific organizations. So you can even nominate an organization you wanted to go to.
mm.
I'm sure so many people would heed that call. People would love the opportunity to be able to give of their art to perform. But I don't see that happening this time.
Okay, sir. Thank you so much for your time and for all these inputs that you shared with us. Continue doing these things that will really help the community and the society at this point of time. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ashish. And thank you, Chennai Times. And